In the beginning of any of these long seasons, you start out really full of expectation. You go into the woods and your soul comes alive. The way the sun moves through the trees or the wind blows through the leaves. It's just a peace and a stillness. Something that you don't experience anywhere else. And you go to focus on your breath, and it's really all you can do in this moment. Just breathe in and breathe out and just keep going. One foot after the other. After you get through just maybe 30, 40 minutes of it, you hit a couple of these steep inclines, and everybody has this kind of like reality check where you start to feel the weight on your back, or you start to, feel it on your feet are a little uncomfortable. And if it's a really long one, like 28 miles, part of you starts to just think, what on earth have I got myself into? It's not all that different than what happens in our life. I mean, for some of us, faith was like this. We picture following Jesus. Hey, this is going to be great. Jesus is going to take care of everything. But then we hit our first trial, or he asks us to do something difficult. And at our thing, it's like, wow, this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. Just reality setting in. Or sometimes in marriage, it looks like this, You get married thinking we're all going to be on the same page and we just fit so well together, only to find out that you're actually not the same person. And it settles in of like, wow, this is a little more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And so you get to this place where it's kind of like a gut check, a reality check. But the good news is in the long journeys, it doesn't last. After that, on these treks, what ends up happening is you start thinking less of how long it's going to be and more about just settling in to the pace that's going to work for you. You find your breath, you figure out kind of just the rhythms, how often to take breaks, how often to move forward. And part of you starts to feel like, you know what, I can do this. But again, if you're moving again from just a short hike to a long hike, it's inevitable that at some point, it's going to go from I can do this to this feels like a grind. I mean, it just feels kind of just brutal, and I still got a long ways to go. In life, I mean, I can think of raising kids feels like this. We're forming character inside of them. It's a day after day journey. I can think of trusting God feels like this. It's each day you want to do it so much, but you find yourself trusting in yourself, and it's just like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it feels like you just have so far to go. Now, if it's a really long season, you'll go from this whole thing of kind of a grind to this point where you just feel like you're over it. Like, I'm just done. Every step you feel the weight on your shoulders get heavier and heavier. And you just don't want to go on. You find yourself eyes just scanning the horizon, and you're just searching for the end. And finally you get a glimpse of it, this peak in the distance. And just a little part of you hopes, like, I can do this. If that's the end, I can do this. And so you push, you gird yourself up, you pull your bag tight, and you really just hunker down and head towards it. You summon everything you got in your person just to push to this end. It's just a little bit further, and then I can rest. Just a little bit further, and I'll be done. So as you approach the end, the ground intensifies. It seems to get steeper. But part of you just feels even more determined, like if I can just push, it'll all be different. And so you scramble, your hands and knees, you're scrambling up pieces of it, and you're pushing harder than you've ever pushed, but just a little bit more. And so finally, out of breath, just panting, it's like you finally see it's only 10 more steps. Only a few more. You put 1 foot there and you come over the crest of the edge, and you just see, and the little bit of your heart just comes alive. I mean, you just feel like hope, like I did it. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I did it. And this just feeling of joy and relief washes over you. The only problem is as you look in the distance, you come to realize that this isn't the peak. It's actually a false peak. There's even greater peaks coming after this. You've put your hope in everything you had into something that isn't actually what it seemed to be. You know, it's at this point in the journey where you're in the most dangerous spot of any trek. It's where you put your hope on a finish line that actually isn't the finish line. And when that happens in our life, I mean, that's where you don't even just experience hopelessness, you actually experience despair. I mean, it almost breaks your soul if that's ever happened to you. And you get into this place, it's like, I don't know how much more longer I can go. I'm done. I mean, people will just sit down and collapse in those moments. And that's actually the times in life where most of us quit. That's the time when you throw the towel in with your marriage. That's the time people walk away from faith. And it's not because they didn't have it in them. It's because they put their hope in something they were never supposed to put their hope in from the beginning. See, our hope can never be on where the finish line is. Our hope can only be on who's walking with us on this journey. We've got to begin to focus not on how far can we make it, but how are we running the race that's set before us? And who are we fixing our eyes on? Because it's that hope that's never going to fail.